It's a fresh new podcast, Tuesday, September 12, 2023. I'm Crash Connell, and Mary Danielsen is back. How did the prophecy conference go over the weekend? I was able to make the Sunday session with Chris Quintana.
Yes, it went really well. I think that every year I notice a little bit more because this is our 27th prophecy conference. We had the first one in 1999, and we had Chuck Missler and Dave Hunt, and wow, it was just incredible. And now 27 years later, and we have just amazing guests. I think that the church in general is really getting weary. I mean, I've seen it, and now I've really seen it. And I think what struck me the most was, if you only have, say you only have a few more Sundays in the pulpit or a few more months or weeks or a year with your children, what do you want to impart to them? The urgency, I guess, is what struck me. Well, how should we be living, and how should we be thinking, and what should our priorities be? And so,
how was the mood? It seems like
I thought so.
Over the years, I've seen there's been excitement, but it seems like more and more I call them like zombies. It's just like now that we see it happening, it's kind of like a zombie state.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. You really did. I felt that people are dragging a little bit more, and I thought, how can we build up and encourage people?
Right.
Yeah.
And so the prophecy conference from Calvary Chapel in Appleton, hopefully it's going to be out on DVD soon.
It will. It will be a little bit to process all that. So they can go to ccappleton.org and go to the conference page. And on the right-hand side, there will be downloadable forms. You can order media that way.
Got an exciting guest today for this fresh new podcast, so let's get underway here.
Yeah, we are so busy. Life is crazy, but God carries us even when it seems like we are in a free fall. Leo Hohmann is my guest this morning. I'm excited to chat with Leo. First, today's scripture passage. Today is Psalm 84, 1-5. How lovely is your tabernacle, O Lord of hosts. My soul longs, yet, yes, even faints for the courts of the Lord. My heart and my flesh cry out for the living God. Even the sparrow has found a home, and the swallow a nest for herself, where she may lay her young. Even your altars, O Lord of hosts, my King and my God. Blessed are those who dwell in your house. They will still be praising you. Selah. Blessed is the man whose strength is in you, whose heart is set on pilgrimage. Oh, Lord, please pray with me this morning. Lord, the day cannot come fast enough when we find ourselves safely tucked in with you in your habitation, Lord. Our soul does faint for you and your presence, but we have a glorious future, and no matter what we are facing today, we ask that you remind us daily that the end of all things is at hand. Thank you for your great and precious promises, and they are many. We lift up our guest today and ask that you protect, encourage, and refresh Leo in his labors for you. Thank you for his testimony. Thank you for his hard work over the years, and we ask that you would bless him. In Jesus' name, amen. Again, like I said, Leo Hohmann is my guest this morning. He's a veteran investigative reporter and author. He's spent decades researching and writing about education, immigration, crime, politics, religion. His articles have appeared at Front Page Magazine, LifeSite News, Zero Hedge, Drudge Report, Technocracy News, Canada Free Press, Global Research, The Gateway Pundit, WorldNet Daily, many, many others. He's been interviewed by dozens of local and national radio hosts, including Laura Ingraham of Fox News, Daniel Horowitz of Conservative Review, Allison Steinberg of OAN, Larry Elder, Brandon House, Dr. Peter Bregan, George Norrie of Coast to Coast, Jan Markell, many more. His mission has always been to fearlessly report truths about the great issues of our time and connect the dots wherever they may lead. He also seeks to report issues in historical context so his readers can grasp the greater meaning of today's news. There's your big picture, which I really appreciate. LeoHohmann.com, LeoHohmann.com. Leo, welcome to Stand Up for the Truth today.
Hello, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you on. I'm a regular visitor to your page, and I really enjoy your thoughtful pieces. They do rise above a lot of voices out there. And I just want to jump in with your latest, because if you go to leohohmann.com, you're going to find a lot of great articles. The one I saw yesterday, at least, this is about the governor of New Mexico's dictatorial moves that I think caught Americans off guard. Maybe it should or should not have caught us off guard. And your article just starts out briefly here. Anyone who complies with illegal, unconstitutional edicts like the one just announced by New Mexico's governor is complicit in America's slide into totalitarianism. And you say this is a crucial test being launched by the globalists to see if us sleepy Americans will hand over our Second Amendment rights by this ridiculous edict. Leo? What was her executive order? What's really going on over there in New Mexico?
Yeah, this governor of New Mexico, Governor Grisham, she apparently has been a problem. So I've been hearing from people of New Mexico for quite some time. She comes from an oligarchical family there that's wielded a lot of power in that state for a very long time. And but this latest one, I think, sort of is putting New Mexico on the map, so to speak. That's one of those states that most of us don't think of very often. I bet if you ask the average American, they wouldn't know the first thing about New Mexico. Is it a red state? Is it a blue state? Is it a purple state? Who's the governor? What are politics and the culture there? Most people wouldn't know too much, including myself, although I did know some of that. But this act by this governor, it was a executive order, okay? So it was not a law that was passed by the legislature or signed by the governor. It was just something she pulled out of thin air and said that she was going to suspend all carry permits in the city of Albuquerque and surrounding counties for at least 30 days. So she's essentially said that it's going to be suspended. The Second Amendment, Mary, is going to be suspended in that state's biggest city and surrounding counties due to recent high crime rates. And I believe there was an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old killed in a recent shooting. And so she's piggybacking off of that tragedy to announce this edict. And what struck me about it, Mary, more than anything, was the language she used in her edict. She said that these recent shootings have created a, quote, public health emergency in the state of New Mexico, and particularly Albuquerque. Now, for most people who don't read my website or a few others, that would go right over their head, and that would be a side issue that they would not even pay attention to. They would be focused entirely on, well, oh my goodness, she's suspending the Second Amendment. Mm-hmm. But the language trying to say that these shootings have created a health emergency, well, where does that language come from? It certainly does not come from Governor Grisham's own brain. I don't know that anything original has ever come from Governor Grisham's own brain. She doesn't strike me as a particularly intelligent woman, but she does strike me as a globalist. And I understand that she did attend the most recent, or not the most recent, but I believe it was the second most recent World Economic Forum meeting in Davos, Switzerland. Back in January, I believe she was one of 3 or 4 governors who attended. Another one was my governor, Brian Kemp of Georgia, and Gretchen Whitmer of Michigan. And this is where governors, big city mayors, business leaders, politicians go to get their orders from the globalist World Economic Forum and its leader, Klaus Schwab, who himself is a protege of Henry Kissinger. He started the World Economic Forum in 1971, under the tutelage of Henry Kissinger, the former Secretary of State and big-time globalist, who's also a member of the Trilateral Commission and the Council on Foreign Relations. These are very, very evil organizations who believe in global governance and continuously are pushing pushing us towards more global governance. They're masters at incrementalism, Mary.
Yeah.
It's over the last 60 years, 70 years, really since the end of World War II, and even before then, if you want to go to 1913 and the passage of the Federal Reserve Act, the passage of the federal income tax law. These are all things that have degraded the personal sovereignty, state sovereignty, and national sovereignty here in America. Less freedom, basically, okay?
Right.
This has been a 125-year project. It is now in its final stages, so it is moving, as we talked off air briefly, it's moving very quickly, because when it comes to its final stages, that's when people finally start to wake up, like the frog in the pot of water. It's been warming up gradually for 100 and some years, but now it's getting kind of hot, and so people are starting to wake up in that frog pot, and so they need to move quickly before the zombies wake up completely. Because the one advantage we have over them is numbers. There is, 1 million times more of us than there are of these billionaire elites and their minions.
Right.
If you took all of the billionaire elites and their minions, who are the ones who do their bidding, it's probably 1% of the overall population. Maybe a little bit more, because the size of government has just grown tremendously over the last, even just 22 years since 9/11. You look at the federal government and all the new agencies under, the Department of Homeland Security is the biggest monstrosity of them all, and it's only 22 years old.
Wow.
Before that, you had the Department of Energy, the Department of Education, created just in the 70s, okay? And so all of these federal agencies have been weaponized. We can get into that a little bit later about how they've been figuratively weaponized for many, many years, decades. But now they're being literally weaponized, and we can talk about that later. But because of all this, people are starting to wake up.
Yeah.
And so, they're having to move very fast to finish the deal, to close the deal, and make this a truly totalitarian state like China. China is the model, okay? China is the model of the modern technocratic, techno-communist, techno-fascist, whatever you want to call it, state, where basically it's a surveillance state. And the government and its minions, and when I say that, I'm talking about large corporations as well as government agencies. They're tracking you everywhere you go, watching everything you buy, creating tools to do that. And that's why they're wanting to ban cash money and bring in digital money and ban or replace the plastic in your wallet, as I like to call it, that being your plastic card that is your driver's license, your plastic credit cards. All that will be replaced, Mary, with a digital equivalent. The difference is that it's more difficult to track you when it's a physical plastic card as opposed to a digital computerized issuance. And the two major tools are the digital ID and the digital money, both of which are very much in the works. More than 100 countries working on both of those as we speak. There's an announcement, it seems like every other day, by another nation saying that they're getting ready to roll out their central bank digital currency. And so once those two things are in place, that will be the end of freedom as we know it in this country and every other country, because everything you buy, everywhere you go, that will all be tracked, and that data will be uploaded in real time, okay? When you have a credit card, there's data, there's tracks that you leave behind, but it is not accessible in real time like these digital currencies will be, and along with the digital ID. So eventually we're heading towards a beast system where we can talk about that more later, but it will all be added to what's called a social credit scoring system like they have in China.
Yes.
Leo Hohmann is our guest on Stand Up for the Truth. I wanted to go back to what we were talking about, the governor of New Mexico. Yeah, I read in Epic Times today, she said she has the right to suspend the Constitution because of a public.
Yeah.
And we got to make that real clear to our listener that that is illegal. She cannot suspend the Constitution. Cannot do that. There's no rights, health emergencies, anything like that. A state cannot
Right.
Yes.
suspend a national constitution.
She's using the language of the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization, and I to this day still don't see many other people picking up on that besides myself. I predicted this last year, more than a year ago, when the World Health Organization started talking about their new pandemic treaty and their new amendments to the international health regulations, which have been in place for many decades. They're talking about the WHO will be able to declare a public health emergency of international concern or of regional concern. And when they do that, they will be able to dictate the response as opposed to national governments. And so it is a move towards that global governance. And that's why it was a big red flag when I saw Governor Grisham use that language from the UN World Health Organization, saying that she had detected there was a public health emergency being caused by gun violence. And I had predicted more than a year ago in several articles that this was the goal, that it was about more than just virus pandemics, that they could apply that vague language of a public health emergency to almost anything, and then dictate a response going above and beyond and outside of the bounds of the U.S. Constitution. And that's exactly what she's doing. It is completely illegal, completely unconstitutional. But the good news is, in my article Saturday, I suggested that this was a pivotal moment and the people of New Mexico needed to do something to stand up and resist. And the only thing I could think of, I mean, I could be wrong, but the most obvious thing to me seemed to be to resist this edict would be to go out in public with your open carrying your sidearm.
That's exactly what you do. I'm not breaking any laws.
Yeah.
And so you can't enforce this. Have a nice day.
And that's exactly what they did on Sunday. A day after my article, I was so proud of the people of New Mexico. A large group of them gathered in a park in Albuquerque with their firearms and basically said, come and take it, you know. And there was no police presence there, to my knowledge, arresting anyone. And so this is what you need to do when a governor goes completely rogue and makes an unconstitutional edict like this. You have to resist it, and you need to do it publicly. You need to mock it, in a sense.
Right.
And that's what they seem to be doing.
Well, and the Republicans in New Mexico are going to, I guess, start the impeachment process. Have you heard anything about that?
Yeah, I have. I saw one interviewed this morning, one of the state representatives, a young man, I don't remember his name, but that's exactly what they're trying to do. There's also been the sheriff, one of the local sheriffs, I don't remember if it was Albuquerque or the other county that this applies to, this edict, but he said, you know, basically, we're not going to enforce this edict.
Okay.
And so that's another positive sign. Sheriffs are critical. They are like the last line of defense against tyranny in this country. That is the way our Constitution is set up. Unfortunately, the vast majority of sheriffs are no good. But there is, I would say, a large minority. I would classify it as that. It's not a small minority, a large, but they are a minority. Large minority of sheriffs who seem like they will take a stand against this sort of tyranny.
That's good. That is good to know. And I don't know if it's going to bring rise to more militias and that, but I do think that they are trying to divide and conquer. They want to see who's going to respond. And get people against each other. I mean, they're just trying to stir the pot on every single level. Leo, very, very
you are
interesting.
So right. Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah. The two things I see the globalists continuously trying to drive forward is division and distraction. Divide and distract. Because when you keep the people divided and distracted on side issues, number one, the focus is off of them. We look at each other. If we're liberal, we look at the conservative Americans. If we're conservative Americans, we look at the liberal Americans as the enemy. That's why, I don't like to get into the partisan politics, the Antifa, Black Lives Matter. No, I don't agree with a thing that those people stand for. But do I want to get into a shooting war with them? No, because they are useful idiots. They are not the tip of the spear of the enemy that we face.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would implore Americans, conservative Americans, to look beyond what you see on the evening news whenever they have, riots in the big cities. It's easy to try to hate those people and, keep your focus on them. That's what the globalists want us to do, because these are nothing more than useful idiots who are being most of the time paid to get out in the streets and cause a ruckus, destroy buildings, and loot businesses. This keeps us distracted, and it keeps our eyes off of the real enemy, which is the oligarchs, the elites, and their bureaucratic minions in state agencies, federal agencies, as well as large corporations.
Wow. Yes, Leo, I'm asking you to hold that thought. We have to take a break here, a 2-minute break, and we are going to come back with more from Leo Hohmann. We're going to talk about the beast system. I want to talk about something that came out this weekend from Yale. Yale researchers are developing a nasal spray for mRNA. I'm telling you, it gets more insidious as we go. I also wonder about masks. When we clearly said we don't want to wear them, they are going to try again. So, standupforthetruth.com. Visit that site for some real helpful content. And we will be back in 2 minutes. Stay with us.
Feedback, questions, and topic suggestions are always appreciated. Email us at comments@standupforthetruth.com.
Welcome back to Stand Up for the Truth. My name is Mary Danielsen, and we're with Leo Hohmann today. LeoHohmann.com, and it's Hohmann. I really do recommend that website for some real thoughtful articles. The technocracy marches on, and we're just human beings in the middle of it. But we really need to pray for one another, and seek wisdom from the Lord, and seek to build up and edify the church, as I said at the beginning. Leo, you got some. This is Mary Danielsen, by the way. We're on Stand Up for the Truth with Leo Hohmann. LeoHohmann.com. Leo is an investigative reporter of many, many years, and we sure appreciate his wisdom. A couple of loose ends here, Leo, I wanted to just talk to you real quickly about. You have here this robo-dog that was unleashed. NFL season started this last weekend. NFL Stadium unleashes robo-dog security robot armed with night vision and facial recognition software. Stadium owners say our fans just love it. So in Atlanta, down by you, they recently welcomed the introduction of Benzie the drone dog to patrol the stadium and keep an eye on the fans. It will monitor 11 acres around the stadium and uploading real-time video of everyone and everything. It sees night vision capabilities. It can read license plates, sniff for explosions. But Leo, is he armed at this point?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
But I think that's coming.
Wow.
This is just one way that AI and technology is replacing human beings instead of, armed security guards. At some point, you will see these robots. And I find it interesting, that they chose the dog to have a mechanized dog. They could have used any sort of being, but they chose the dog to replicate in this mechanical and computerized form with all of these capabilities. The dog is seen as what? Man's best friend.
Right.
And here you have the elites taking that concept of the dog and turning it against man or human being.
Wow.
He is now the one who's armed with facial recognition software and all other sorts of capabilities to track you and to keep you in line. This is it's sort of antithetical to the nice, cute little dog that you would have roaming around your property at home. And so, this is a trend. It's not just Atlanta. Major League Baseball, I had an article a few weeks back. There are 3 stadiums operating in Major League Baseball that are using facial recognition software for people who enter the stadium. They say it's voluntary. You can take this digital ID and you upload some biometric data, is what it is, to an app on your phone, and now they have your face scan. And so when you show up at the ballpark, you don't have to show ID or even I don't even think a ticket. I mean, they'll know who you are as soon as you enter the gates. And see, the problem here is that they play on our fears. We've already talked about that, but they also play on our quest for convenience, our thirst for convenience, our insatiable appetite for technology that will make things easier and more convenient for us. Mm-hmm. And so they either say it's going to make you safer or more secure, or it's going to make it more convenient. Those are the 3 buzzwords that all of these purveyors of this technology use. And you see it at the entertainment level, especially, concert halls, baseball, football, basketball stadiums. They're all going to be going to this. Major League Baseball only has 3 stadiums doing it right now, but they said next year it's going to be more than double that amount. Every year they're going to add more. They're totally into this, and we are moving towards an AI-controlled world,
yes.
Where you will need a digital ID to function in life. Mm-hmm. Eventually it's going to go even more sinister, and you will need a digital ID to buy or sell anything in the marketplace.
Wow. They also have them in you can just go online and see them in the high-end stores where they say you cannot enter unless you look at the camera. Wow. So if you refuse to look at the camera, you can't even enter. The double doors will not open in the high-end stores. You can go see them online. You can see these videos.
Well, and Evolve is the company that is bringing this about. And you say here, do you ever wonder that with so many tech firms out there like Evolve bragging about how they keep us safe and secure, why does the world never get safer or more secure? I mean,
yes. People should ask themselves basic questions like that. But see, here's the problem. Our education system has been dumbing people down for generations. Mm-hmm. The public education system, as envisioned by John Dewey and some of the other fathers of public education, it was to train people in the way that you want them to be trained, rather than we don't really educate people. True education teaches people how to think critically, how to ask logical questions, how to think logically. All of these traits, these talents, are no longer being taught in the public education system, and in many of the private parochial schools either. And so you end up with a generation of people who don't think things through. They just look at everything, in a vacuum. They don't connect dots. Okay, if they're telling me this could do this here, how would that relate to something over there? They don't think that way, and so they're so easily controlled. And this is a problem. This is a big problem.
Yes, it absolutely is. And context is king, whether you're studying the Bible or studying history. Nothing happens in a vacuum. Everything builds on something else. You also mentioned here New York City used drones to spy on residents holding large parties over Labor Day weekend. And city police departments are engaging in pre-crime analysis where they use surveillance cameras to try and apprehend people suspected of planning to commit a crime. I mean, that sounds like Hollywood. Oh, wait, they did do that. And it's just... speaking of New York...
I believe it was a Tom Cruise movie.
It was, when you said that, I thought of it. Minority Report.
That was
Minority Report. Awesome movie.
Well, and look at New York City. They are so burdened under the weight of illegal immigrants, and same with Massachusetts. Massachusetts has a law, the only state in the union, that says if you're a family and you have children, you're entitled to housing, period. Well, no state can sustain that. And New York City, if we're talking tens of thousands of immigrants a week, these sanctuary cities, I mean, you and I could have said what could possibly go wrong, but apparently the blue states don't understand what could possibly go wrong. What's going to happen to New York City, Leo? It just seems like they're done. They're housing people at the airport.
Yeah, well, Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, came out just a few days ago and was very frank and very blunt in saying, you know what, if this inflow of migrants, he calls them migrants, I call them illegal aliens,
Mm-hmm.
but if this inflow of migrants does not stop, where they're getting like 10,000 a week or a month, I don't remember the figure.
I think it was a week.
Coming into New York City. If that doesn't stop, he said, New York City will be destroyed.
Wow.
This will destroy everything that is good about our city, he said, because you cannot sustain that. That is not a sustainable system. They don't have the school capacity. They don't have the housing capacity. They can't afford to, that's the thing. These illegal migrants that are coming in over the border, they can immediately sign up for different welfare programs. The biggest one that most people seem to overlook is the schools, the school systems.
Right.
There's a law we have on the books, a federal law, that no child can be turned away from public schools. Well, that includes the children of illegal aliens. And so a lot of school districts, I know mine here in Georgia, they're always building new schools. And you wonder why, because the birth rate in America is like the lowest it's ever been in history.
Right.
So if we're not if we're not spawning children, why are we continuously having to build bigger schools and more schools? Well, it's the influx of illegal aliens. You are paying to build more school space and hire more teachers to educate these children that shouldn't have been here in the first place because their parents brought them over the border, or the parents, or in many cases, not even their parents, human smugglers, bring them over the border illegally. And then where they're using our tax dollars not only to school them, but then you need more hospital space because, children and people get sick. You need more jail space. You need to build more and bigger jails because a lot of them break laws.
Right.
You can just go right down the line. It is a burden on any system, any culture that is not sustainable. And so no serious country would allow this. No, you don't see Russia allowing this.
Right.
You don't see China opening their borders and allowing this. It's only the Western countries. Isn't that interesting?
It is really
Western
interesting.
Europe, the U.S., Canada, Australia, they're the ones embarked upon this suicide mission.
Wow. Leo, we only have a couple minutes left, and your book, Stealth Invasion, too, was about illegal immigration. And, boy, I bet you wrote that several years ago, but if you were to, possibly add to that, I'm sure you could think of a lot of things to put in there now that you did not see coming. But I do want to ask you, we just have a couple minutes, is there anything else that you want to talk about? Is there anything you want to tell the church to gird up their loins for, or anything that needs to be, anything you'd like to add?
Well, I think if I'm talking to the church, I would say this. Reread Matthew 24. If you haven't read it, read it. If you've read it, read it again, because it really lays things out for the end times, which I do believe we are entering the end of the end times.
Yes.
I do believe we're entering that critical stage, and it seems to be the most clear, most chronological description of the way things will unfold. Matthew 24. And the takeaways I get from that, there's a lot of them, but I know we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to mention a couple. That there's going to be massive deception and a lot of persecution of believers. So you need to prepare yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually for those two things: deception and persecution.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, and I think it's going to get real serious real soon. And as I open the podcast, with there's a lot of weariness out there. People are tuning out, and I think Now is not the time to tune out, but to really.
No, in fact, I think anyone who tunes out now is probably going to not pass the test. Everyone's going to have their faith tested in the months and years to come.
Agreed.
So if you're already wimping out before it even gets really tough, then how are you going to stand when it gets much worse?
Wow, that is such really, really good advice. And that's a stern warning, and I think people need to hear it. And Leo, thank you so much. LeoHohmann.com. Really, really, really enjoyed talking to you today. Love to do it again sometime.
Leo, how can people find you out there?
Yeah, thanks for asking that. LeoHohmann.com is my main site, LeoHohmann. And then I also have a Substack account, leohohmann.substack.com. And I'm also on Telegram. You can find me there, Leo Hohmann, author/journalist.
Great. Thank you so much, Leo. Lord bless you and all your labors for the Lord. Again, visit standupforthetruth.com. There's a lot of helpful content on there. You can order gear, shirts, caps, and mugs. There are resources, upcoming guest lists, previous guests, and you can see who we've talked to. Subscribe to the weekly podcast digest there also, and donate. You know, we are listener-supported, and we sure do appreciate all of our listeners and all of our donors. Thursday, Jason Jimenez of Stand Strong Ministries. Friday, Rebecca Kiesling. What a story she has. So that sort of wraps up another podcast. We're half into September already. Isn't that amazing? Therefore, my beloved brethren, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that your labor is not in vain in the Lord. 1 Corinthians 15:58. Have a great day on purpose.